this isn't meant to be, apparently. And meanwhile, I decided to get on dating apps at that time. So
Mm-hmm.
we're looking at, let's see, February 2023. So we're about like 2 years after my breakup. And again, like a good maybe like year of like back and forth with this old flame. And so I decided to get on dating apps, and I was semi intentional, I would say. Like, again, when I'm have talked about manifestation, I don't know if I mentioned this to you before we started the episode or if it was during the episode, but my manifestation journey has been really more focused on creating a more intentional life, like lifestyle, which has
Mm-hmm.
been like working from anywhere and doing that, and then like money.
My name is Anita Aguilar, and you're listening to Being Abundant. In this podcast, we have conversations all about limiting beliefs, how to break through them, and rewire your subconscious mind when it comes to money. If you're ready to let go of self-sabotage, take your power back when it comes to your circumstances, and co-create your reality, this podcast is for you. We're not only going to give you tangible resources of how you can rewire your subconscious mind, but we're also going to share your stories. So without further ado, let's get right to it. That's so loud for me. Sarita, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and joining our free workshop last week. It's really a delight for me to like meet with people one-on-one. And like I said just a couple minutes ago, that I'm just here to hear more about your story and walk you through that 5-step process. So with your own words, tell me what has been your process with manifestation and just like the process of becoming aware.
Yes, I am a huge advocate and supporter and student of manifestation. I got introduced to it about five some years ago, and it's been the tool that I've used to really create a more intentional life. And so that has been because of the fact that I wasn't really living intentionally before with romance and love and money and career and just like building a life. I was just kind of doing it at the whims of, what was expected of me. And then also, um, as well, like just things that I thought that I wanted to go after. And so after I had a breakup, it's been about, I think it's like 4 years now. I had a breakup of a 8 some year relationship that I actually broke off. So I left my like corporate job. I broke off my relationship a couple of months. It was actually still during the pandemic. And then I started all over again. So manifestation, self-love, that has been an integral part of my journey. And so what I've been really utilizing it for is constructing a more intentional lifestyle for myself, which is being able to work from anywhere and stuff. And so one of the things that I haven't necessarily, yes, I've implemented it, but it hasn't been a major focus, is in regards to my love, romance, and dating.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason why I joined your workshop, because I was like, ooh, I utilize these tools constantly, and I'm doing them for money. And yes, like I have been intentional when I do go dating, but
Mm-hmm.
not to the degree that you were talking about. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much more that I get to incorporate. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I love that. I kind of want to back up a little bit. I know that you told me that you've been recently coaching other people and how that's like a whole different journey. And what's one thing when you're like learning it and you're applying it for yourself and then you're teaching it to other people. I'm curious, like what has been the difference of like using it for yourself and then like helping other people understand in like in a digestible way.
Yeah. One of the things that's coming forth right now that I'm thinking of is it's very interesting how the way we talk to ourselves is so important in our just in our relationship with self, with love, and the way we construct our lives. And what's coming to me right now is when I'm coaching somebody through their own process and through their own emotions and the things that are coming forth through them during a session, and working with them one-on-one for a few sessions, is I realize that I'm so much more patient with them than I am with myself, which is
Mm.
odd because you would think that with yourself, like you can strengthen that muscle and be patient with yourself and patient with the process and surrendering to the process and surrendering to, the magic of the universe, God source universe,
Mm-hmm.
and with yourself and your emotions. And yet, like, we are our own worst critic. And so I find that one of the things I notice is that I'm so much more comfortable with holding space for somebody else in regards to their emotions and things that are coming up for them, and supporting them in their journey. And yet, it's like, how would you talk to your best friend? Would you talk to yourself as you would a best friend, basically? And I just find that interesting, and that's just like a light bulb moment I'm having right now, that I'm like, wow, that's interesting, that I'm like not as patient and forgiving and supportive to myself
Mm-hmm.
through this process that I am with like clients.
That's such a good realization. And just like that perspective of like that mirror image, because that's one thing that I've also noticed with coaching is that when we are coaching someone, we're coaching people who have been through similar struggles through as us, and that's why we attract those people. But there's also things that like unconsciously like maybe trigger us or make us like realize certain things about ourselves. And I think that kind of ties into what we're going to talk about today is like just with dating and finding a partner. It's just about, I think a lot of times when we're thinking about it, we're thinking about the yes, we're going to be able to watch TV together and go on dates and do the fun stuff, but we're not really like up, like subconsciously ready for the challenge of someone saying, hey, what you said hurt my feelings, or hey, like you're not as patient with me when I'm talking to you. And I think if we could open our hearts up to those type of experiences, which you're already doing for other people, it really helps us attract that partner.
Yes, yes, I agree.
So again, I'd like to know more about um, the 8-year relationship, the courage that it took to leave that relationship, and some of the thoughts that were going through your head.
Yes, that relationship was a big part of my growing up, I believe. Like, it was like my first grown up relationship, if that makes sense. Cause it's
Mm-hmm.
like the ones that I've had before were when I was younger and just not as evolved. And so this one was a 8 some year relationship, almost 9 year relationship. And the dynamic was, he had already been married and he had kids, and the kids were a little bit older. So they were already in their teenage years, both boys. And so for me, it was like stepping into this whole identity of not only being a significant other, but also navigating, basically helping to support and raise 2 children that were not of my own. So stepping into like the stepmother role. And so it ended up being a lot. And what ended up coming to the surface, and I would say a big reason that I ended up breaking off the relationship, is that I realize now a lot of it has to do, like you were talking about, the reflection, is that I wasn't able to voice what it was that I really, really wanted, which was to be seen and heard. And so that just came forth in like arguments and things like that. And not feeling appreciated was like a huge cycle that just kept manifesting itself over and over again. And a lot of that had to do with me just really leaking my energy in a lot of places that probably I could have just been putting into myself. And so I ended up breaking off that relationship, but that was the really hard part. A lot of people don't talk about like the process that it actually takes to do that, because I knew for quite some time the intuition was there that I didn't want to be in the relationship, yet it was more like, what's the right time to do this? And it was more like fear based as well. Like, oh, if I leave, like he's not going to be able to find somebody else. It was more like me
Mm-hmm.
really worried about him than it was
Wow.
me. Um, and then also like starting over and all that stuff. Like, it was just accumulation of things. And what really came to the surface was all that during the pandemic. And if you remember the pandemic, it like people were just really locked away with each other. So
Mm-hmm.
we just had to, we really saw the other person or the other family members in lights that I think we just never really wanted to see, or were kind of hidden beneath the surface. And so it all came out. And it was during the pandemic I realized that I didn't want to be in the relationship. And I was actually going through right then and there, I ended up getting a therapist because I also needed help with some mental health concerns that I had. And then I was in a coaching program at the time, and I clearly remember during a coaching class, one of the little get-togethers we were having, we had to do some inquiry work, and I realized underneath like a couple questions that I asked myself, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be in this relationship, and that was I want to say that was probably like August, September of 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't until we ended up moving to a new place together. And about April 2021 is when I actually did the action of breaking it off. So you can see it was a good probably like 6 months that I was
Mm-hmm.
in this inaction. And so after breaking off the relationship, it was very challenging for me because it was natural, just like everybody. Like you miss that person, you miss the experience, you miss all the things that you used to do together. And what made it even more challenging for me is that I found a place to live basically 2 blocks away from where we were living before.
Oh,
So
yeah.
running into him and seeing him and having it be the natural tendency of like drifting back into his home because it was like comfortable and all that. So it was a very challenging time. I'm not going to lie. A lot of people don't talk about how frustrating and shitty really it is to go through a breakup, and also just all the things that are coming forth like when it comes after like breakups.
Yep. And I love how you talk about the feeling of comfortability around them and just like being almost like that drawn back in. And I think that's with anything that we do. Like I think with people, especially partners, it's more physical. It's not only the mental and physical connection you have, but it's also like you're intertwined. And so like you're
Yes,
actually like slowly drifting those things apart. And so I think we also have that with our habits. We also have that with our money. We also have that like, we say we want
totally.
the new job, but then it's like we come back to the comfortability. And so I think a partner is just really like that physical manifestation and why it feels so hard. And so I just want to commend you for doing that and like sharing your story too. It's vulnerable, and I know there's so many people on here who can either relate or maybe they're thinking the same and they don't know who to go to. But I'm curious, what are some of the things that you were focused on when it came to being on the other side of that disconnection, that you were kind of had the end in sight?
Yes. So, sorry, just to clarify the question. So, like after I broke up, like what were some of the things
Yeah,
that I was doing? Okay.
like to anchor you to keep that distance.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yes. I would say looking back on it now, it was more of a a band-aid approach to try to keep myself like sane. Uh Now I can see it as I was really trying to feel more safe with myself, with like being with myself. And I was very fortunate that the place that I moved ended up being with a couple, and I had my own like room and space. And I had at the time, I don't think I was really doing a lot of, I didn't have to go to a place of employment for like long hours a day like I had been before. So it allowed me a lot more time to be by myself and take care of myself, which I'm very fortunate. So I was doing a lot of things like sleeping. I was sleeping so much and just taking care of my body in that way. I was journaling. Luckily, I was still doing therapy. I had joined another coaching program at that time, actually a manifestation program, which was awesome.
Nice.
And just really like focusing on the self love aspect. And again, self love can look so many different ways for different people. But at that time, like I said, it was like journaling, spending time with myself, taking walks on the beach because I live very close to the beach. It was taking bubble baths. It was sleeping a lot. It was not really spending that much time with like other people, just really spending as much quality time with myself. And I think that it wasn't necessarily intentional at that time. It was more out of necessity. It was just
Hmm.
like, okay, I feel like this loneliness. And so I'm just going to spend time with myself and just work through the massive amounts of emotions that were coming forth from like guilt to feeling like disappointment for things not working out, sadness, grief. I mean, I was really going through my grieving stages. So just allowing myself to move through those emotions. I remember you saying that during the workshop as well. And that was like really supportive to me. And it's nice to hear that from somebody else because I say that kind of stuff all the time. Like, it's okay,
Right.
sit with
Yeah.
your emotions, right? But like when someone else tells you and you're going through a process and someone is like basically giving you permission to do that, it's like, ah, such a relief. Like, thank you so much for validating my
Mm.
emotions. Because oftentimes when we're in the thick of things, we are trying to move quickly away from that because it's so uncomfortable.
Yep.
And then also, sometimes we give, or at least with myself, like I give myself some level of shame of like, why am I feeling this way? Like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Like, I've moved on, like, I've done the thing and all that. So, yeah, just allowing myself all that space to do all those things really, really supported me post breakup.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I get such a visual when you share this part of your story. I don't know if you've seen this on social media, but my big goal is to make a TV show about manifesting, specifically
Love that.
manifesting money. But the way I see it evolving is kind of the way that it's happening in this conversation, right? Our self love journey starts with us. And then for me, it actually started with money. And then it was myself. And then it was a partner. Um, but I just see a very vivid, like, picture of you doing all of those things, and just sleeping came up a lot too. I like how that you shared that part and like how important that was. I think sleep is probably one of the most necessary things that we need, but we don't allow ourselves to do it. I'm even thinking about
Agreed.
how I woke up early today, and then I went back to sleep and I felt so bad and guilty of like, oh, it's already this time. I was gonna do this. And then, that's really those moments of surrender that you have to have. And it sounds like you did a lot of surrendering of like, no, 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 don't fight it, just feel it. And sometimes it could be tricky to not know like where the line is, but it's like once you fully allow yourself to, like you said, support yourself, love yourself, and do it at a pace that's like maintainable for you, is
Yeah.
how we really start to take our power back from our emotions.
Yes, agreed. I love that. And sleep, just to highlight sleep, I've been meaning to do a TikTok about this, but sleep is really the easiest way. I mean, a lot of people are sleep deprived. The easiest way to raise your vibrational energy. It
Ooh.
really is. It's like the most basic and simple way, and people forget about that.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. I love taking naps. But most of the time, I'm not actually napping. I'm on my phone and I'm scrolling on TikTok. And I'm like, okay, I need to be more intentional with my naps again, the same way when I was a little kid.
Love that.
Because I
Yeah.
really do wake up like feeling revived. Um, okay, so I'm curious, what are some of the things that you are consciously excited about when it comes to like this new chapter and finding a partner?
Yes, that's a loaded question for me because um, I don't want to say I made the unfortunate mistake. That's what was coming out of my mouth, but I was like, okay, I made the choice at the time after I broke off my relationship that I reignited a old flame and really funneled a lot of energy, unfortunately, into the possibility of that.
Mm,
And so, meanwhile, while I was taking care of myself, I had this other. And again, like because it was an old flame, it was like this really, really big excitement of like, oh, it's going to work out this time because it didn't work out the first time. It's going to work out the second time. And then circumstances just came to be where I was being resisted over and over again by this person. And finally, I decided, I was like, you know what? This isn't meant to be, apparently. And meanwhile, I decided to get on dating apps at that time. So
mhm.
we're looking at, let's see, February 2023. So we're about like 2 years after my breakup. And again, like a good maybe like year of like back and forth with this old flame. And so I decided to get on dating apps. And I was semi intentional, I would say. Like, again, when I'm have talked about manifestation, I don't know if I mentioned this to you before we started the episode or if it was during the episode, but my manifestation journey has been really more focused on creating a more intentional life, like lifestyle, which has
Mm-hmm.
been like working from anywhere and doing that. And then like money. And so like love has been one of those things where it's been, I wouldn't say on the back burner, but I haven't necessarily been super intentional and putting in my manifestation like knowledge and expertise in that. And so I was kind of like, I wouldn't say half-assed, but I was a little bit like, okay, like I'm going to go about this like kind of the way that I would, if I was like trying to manifest a new home or a new job, right? So I like got on dating apps. And again, this was like February 2023, and I manifested somebody, and he filled all the lists. But again, it's like exactly what you pointed out, where it was like,
Mm.
oh, like visually this person meets this like threshold, and energetically, like he seems cool at just being able to hang out and do like the friendship things that I want to do, right? And so we dated for about 6 months, and it was all consuming my life. And so that was, I would say, we're at around September, October 2023. And I was like, okay, I think I realized at that time I need a break from this because I've been going hard for like 10 years at this point with like back to back to back. And so when 2024 really commenced, I was still kind of like, I would say, in and out emotionally, not necessarily action wise, but emotionally, and like, okay, this is what I want, this is not what I want, kind of thing. And I would say, really starting July of last year, so 2024 in July, was when I was like, okay, this is a part of my life that I definitely desire to manifest a partner into my life, but I've been going around it the way of what's out there. Let me go fishing. Let me see. Let me get validation outside of myself. Let me do all the things that they tell you to do. Get on dating apps and like make your list and blah blah, all this stuff. So it was like, yes, and then I wasn't necessarily doing the thing that's most important, which you were like talking about in your workshop, which is like, hello, babe, draw the energy into yourself and love yourself first, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I would say it was about last year, mid-year, that it just dawned on me. I'm like, okay, here I am on this self-love journey, because that's where this whole manifestation journey really started for me. Let's go back to square one and really focus on you and what it is that you really desire and really want to cultivate with a relationship with yourself, because that's going to be the most important factor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's your foundation.
Exactly.
I love it. Also, I just want to say that you have a very soothing voice, so when you talk,
Oh, thank you. That's why I'm a
I,
podcaster.
yeah, right. It's like this vibration that it's like, ah, it doesn't make me want to go to sleep, but it does make me just kind of zen out when you're talking. But I love to hear about the experiences and the acknowledgement of like jumping into the next thing. And I do see a lot of us like in that hot and cold. I want this, but I don't. I want this, but I don't. And my biggest goal right now is to help people really just get over that line before the partner even manifests. Because I truly believe that once you're over that line of like in, out, that's when you're like, oh, okay, I'm in this. And,
Yeah.
I think it's more about a commitment that we make to ourselves when we're with a partner, that who's in alignment with us and we're supporting, we're seeing, we're helping. And because that's also what it is, right? You're accepting someone for who they are, for what they do, what they don't do. And it's so hard, but the more that we can allow ourselves to like focus that on someone who's like in alignment with us, the more that we can really show so much more love to ourselves. And so, if it's okay with you, I'd love to go into the practices, the 5-step process.
Yes. Actually, can I share something that
Sure.
came up during the workshop
Yeah, yeah,
specifically?
yeah.
That was the big takeaway. And I think I shared this with you in the DM when you reached
Mm-hmm.
out to me, was the big breakthrough that I had, that I realized is this whole hot and cold thing they were just talking about, is that there is a huge part of me that craves the intimacy, craves like having that significant other, craves having the relationship to be able to do all the things because I've experienced that before, right? Like I've experienced having some amazing people come into my life and I've had wonderful connections with them. And a big breakthrough that I had because you were doing an inquiry, and I think it has to do with like the questions you're going to just ask in a moment, that you were having an inquiry session with one of the people that attended your workshop and you were asking her like, gosh, I don't remember how she phrased it, but my takeaway was, oh my gosh, like if I was to get close to somebody, and it's kind of like either dynamic, right? So if I was to get really close to somebody and share my life with somebody, or what's the basically what is the payoff is that I would like not have the freedom that I have intentionally created over the last few years.
Mm.
Remember, like my manifestation journey has been very intentional about like breaking away from corporate life and breaking away from like people that don't appreciate me and breaking away from the I would say like the identity of the person myself,
Yep.
which like didn't stand up for herself and like speak up for herself and not create a life that was in alignment with herself. And so, because that's been a part of my journey for the last 3 years, being very intentional about that, there's this deep underlying fear that I realized. And again, it was during your workshop that I was like, holy shit, like this is a area that I get to work through is that if I was to get close to somebody, all that stuff that I have been intentionally creating would go away because I would
Mm.
lose my freedom because my freedom equates my equality or sorry, my freedom equates my happiness equates my freedom. And so,
Mm.
like the hot and cold, I realized was like, oh my gosh, like if I was to, get really close to somebody and start, dating and being in a relationship and all the things, which I really do essentially crave, then there's this possibility that my freedom's going to be taken away from me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I get to do is like decide like what is freedom to me, like all that stuff. So that was my big breakthrough from your workshop and my realization that I'm like, okay, this is something that I like get to hone in a little bit more closely to have a better relationship with that because I don't want to have that perception going forward like oh this person comes in my like oh no they're going to take away my freedom like that's not what I want to exude and nor want to experience.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We should break this specific story down because not only do I relate to this, but I also feel like a lot of people listening to us because a lot of us women identify as secure or not secure but anxious attachment. Oh, I'm so scared like he's going to go away, he's going to go away, but I actually think a lot of us are avoidant unconsciously because of what you just
I think
said.
so. I agree.
Right? Especially in this era where we are independent, we make our own money now, we do what we want, we know how to be in our feminine. But so when you have someone who actually does allow you to be in your feminine, it it almost is like, yeah, but I'm not that much in my I could be more in my feminine, more it's like almost like this like fight between the ego because the masculine is what's creating the boundaries for the feminine. But when you have a masculine come in to be that boundary and say, hey, like, I understand that you like to have time for yourself, but I also want to see you, it can be threatening to us. And
Totally.
I definitely
Mm-hmm.
can relate to this. And, um, I'll share more about my experience after this, but I'd love to start right here and just break that story down.
Love it. Let's do it.
Okay, so five step. It's a five-step process. Exactly what I taught with manifesting money. Feel free to use it for any of your clients too. But the
Awesome.
first part of the process is always again, what's the story? And again, I just allowed you held space to bring up whatever was coming through. So I think it's really best that we do start with that. Um, what if I lose my freedom story? So that's step one. We already have the story. That's the simplest part. And the second step is to ask ourselves, where did this story come from? Again, I know you're really conscious and aware of manifestation. So we can go back into that subconscious mind from ages 0 to 8 years old. When was the first time that you felt like you specifically lost your freedom?
I would say what's coming to mind is so I was adopted, and there was a language barrier for a little while between my adopted parent and myself. And I know that probably caused some level of irritation on my part where it's like I'm not being understood. Like I'm not like so it's almost as if like my words and my actions and like my feelings are being dismissed. So I think for a child that's very little, like there's that level of like lack of freedom because like
Mm,
lack of expression.
yeah,
So I would say that would probably be one of the first like core memories that I have. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure that a lot of people listening to this can really relate to that feeling like maybe lack of communication, not only for your communicating your needs, but also like your wants, and like maybe not even be able to receive like the emotional, physical support from someone saying, "Hey, I'm here for you," like because
Yes.
of that language barrier. So I'm curious,
Yes.
this the step 3 is to get super clear on, okay, what if we don't get freedom? Because this is what we do. We get clear on our story, we see where it came from, and then we think about the opposite. But what you've already experienced in your own story and what we did through the workshop is we really want to make sure that we neutralize whatever it is that we're scared of feeling, because that's actually what we're running from. Otherwise, if we skip it, then we go to the all the good and joy and the happy and excitement, then we unconsciously kind of repeat that cycle because we're still running from the feeling of feeling what. So if you're not freedom, then what are you? What does that make you feel?
It makes me feel caged. It
Mm-hmm.
makes me feel locked up. It makes me feel powerless.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me feel, yeah, makes me feel powerless.
Mm-hmm. And so we're going to sit just right here, right now, 60 seconds with this feeling. And you can go ahead and close your eyes if you want to. Just want you to close your eyes. And I want you to picture the word powerless and see it as the color purple. And now, this word powerless, I want you to see it as a child. What does this child need from you?
The child needs a hug. It
Yeah.
needs reassurance. It needs presence.
Yep. And so when we sit with this powerless thing that we've made a demon, when it's really not, it's just something that's there, something that needs attention, needs our presence, needs to be seen, the more that we can allow it to dissipate. Do you feel any tension in your body?
I would say I feel little tension in my like chest area, my heart area.
Okay. We'll just sit with that just for 30 more seconds. Just breathe it through. And when you're ready, just wiggle your fingers and toes and open your eyes. How do you feel?
I feel so much more present. I really needed that. I had a irritating morning this morning before we jumped on this. And so this really brings me to center, and I was just visualizing myself as like a little 3-year-old and like big. big version of me, present version of me, like giving little 3-year-old me like a big like hug and just saying like I'm here for you, like it's okay.
Yep.
You're taken care of.
Yeah. Amazing. Love the visual.
Yeah.
Um, so now we can get to the fun stuff. Okay, let's say, again, this is the part where people skip right to after avoiding the emotions, but you did the hard part. You felt the emotion. And any time that something comes up that triggers this, that's all you have to do is a 5-step process, right? Acknowledge it, where did it come from, feel it, and then we can start having some fun. So I'm curious. Let's say you walk out of this workshop or call today and you're walking down the street, you meet someone. Just paint the picture, right? So what is exciting about this, and what is something that you genuinely want to do with your partner when they manifest?
I in general just love meeting new people. So like I was super excited to connect with you. So that is a huge thing for me is getting to know somebody, talk.
Mm,
I'm a Venus and Gemini, so like talking and having conversation and getting to find out about somebody is really so such an enjoyment part. So for me, like essentially like sitting on the beach and talking for hours or going on a picnic talking for hours, just being able to have a situation or experience where we're able to like really connect and talk. That's something that I truly cherish when it comes to like one-on-one time with somebody.
yeah. Awesome. I love that. I love the undivided attention. Seems like that's like really
Yes.
important for you, and it's also like something that someone out there for you is craving, right? Somebody that wants
Yes.
someone just to listen to them, and it sounds like you genuinely just want to hear about them. And I can imagine this person being like, "Wow, she really wants to know everything about me."
Yeah.
So, what for step 5? Now we're gonna tap into some things that we can physically do to help attract this person. So, right, like you said, going for a long walk, having a conversation, like this is important. Don't get me wrong. Like going to the place and sitting there and visualizing that you'll be with them one day there is important. But I would spark up conversations in that place. It's exactly like if I was in your shoes. I think a lot of times when I was consciously manifesting my partner, I'd be like, okay, um, there's specific places where I would view and I would just sit and look at the view. And I've gotten to go to those places with him and said, I manifested you here. But there's also things that I'm like, oh, I also love to spark up conversations. And I think that was something that I didn't realize, right in the moment. You think it's just with your partner. Maybe it's you and your partner speaking to different couples on the beach, or,
Yeah.
if I would go and spark up conversations with people, um, like I said, walking on the street, grocery aisles, like really just connect with people and allow yourself to feel what it would feel like. Just kind of doing that with the partner too.
I love that idea. Thank you. That's a good reminder because sometimes I'm in my own little world when I go on like walks and when I'm sitting on the beach or but I live in a beach community which is awesome. So there's always like people walking around and hanging out and stuff. And so people that are locals, people that are tourists, all the above. So yeah, it is a wonderful opportunity to connect with people and converse with people. And I really do love that. I do. Like I sometimes get in my like modes of where I'm like feel really shy, but yet like I can be sometimes I can't keep up with myself. Sometimes I'm very extroverted and sometimes I'm like way introverted.
Yeah.
So, yes, that's a really great way to kind of shift the mindset of like being more intentional about creating conversations because essentially that's like what I'm trying to cultivate myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know this may sound a little I don't can't find the word for it, but I really want you to see yourself as this light for other people and this excitement and like beautiful woman came up and talked to me today. I think I genuinely sometimes I would just spark conversations with people who I knew maybe were staring at me when we're sitting at the side of the bus, and I was just because, our energies are so attractive, And, just from people having a 5-10 minute conversation with us, whether it's like someone you feel connected with, or it's just something that you feel like you're getting out of your comfort zone. It's like, yeah, we have to remind ourselves that our presence, and like I told you before, your tone of voice is just so comforting.
Thank you.
And just put ourselves out there, because our presence is what's really giving to other people. And when we're manifesting a partner, we're always thinking about, what is this going to bring me? What is this going to bring me? But if you can kind of step out of that and say, what am I going to do for this person? Right? How am I helping them experience the world differently because of the things that I've done for myself?
I love that. I love that. That's really unique perception. Yeah, I never thought about that. That's really cool. Mhm.
All right. Well, it was so nice chatting with you. Is there any way that people, if they want to connect with you and, maybe share their story with you personally because they felt like they related, where can they find you?
Totally. Yes. So I have my own podcast, which I know Anita is going to be a guest on.
Yeah, I'd
So
love
my
to.
podcast, yes, my podcast is on Apple, Spotify, and it's also video on YouTube. It's called Back to Here with Sarita, the New Manifesting Paradigm podcast. My handles, which is on YouTube and TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, is Sarita Wellness. So that's my first name, SaritaWellness. So Sarita Wellness, manifestation coach and podcaster. And I have some offerings and things, so you can come to my page and check out my stuff. But I love hanging out on IG and then also TikTok as well. So would love to connect with you there. Feel free to send me a DM. And yeah, definitely listen to the podcast if you want to get to know me a little bit better.
Yay! Well, thank you for allowing me to get to know you better. I know we've been in the vortex for like a couple of years, I feel like.
For
And so this
sure.
is like our first like actual talking, and I'm really grateful for that.
Yes, me too. Me too. Like I said, that's like my thing. Love connecting with other people. And thank you for helping me have a couple light bulb moments today, especially this very end one with, creating and cultivating like conversations with other people to help them experience like, what I can bring to the table and myself.
Yep, I agree. All right, loves. Everybody, we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you. Bye.
My name is Anita Aguilar, and you're listening to Being Abundant.